Mythology is a complicated subject. It touches on literature, history, anthropology, sociology, psychology, religion, and even science. Have you ever tried to make a Slurpee mixing all of the flavors together? Mythology is exactly like that, but it's a Slurpee of knowledge with no brain freeze and a lot to learn. So maybe actually a tiny brain freeze, but a different kind of brain freeze. There are a couple of reasons mythology is a more difficult subject than some of the others we've tackled. One is that many myths are very, very old and often exist in many versions. So just keep that in mind when we discuss a particular myth during the series. But the last problem we have to talk about in a different form, it doesn't mean that we've gotten it wrong, of finding a good working definition for the word myth. It just may be that we're working from especially given the way we use the word in contemporary English. Much of the time, when we say something is a myth, what we mean is that it's not true. For example, the idea that you swallow 8 spiders a year while you're sleeping. That's not true. It's a myth. Not sure if this applies to Australians, though. I would wager that you guys swallow at least 8 spiders a year. Everything I know about Australia, I learned from the internet. Because we use the term myth to mean something that isn't true, we can come away with the definition of myth as a story that is false and not to be taken seriously. But myths have been taken seriously. By scholars, sure, but more importantly by generations and generations of people who've heard these stories and found in them something worth telling again. Which is not to say people don't question their myths. Philosophers were writing about the absurdity of Greek myths as far back as the 6th century BCE, probably even earlier. So if a myth isn't just a story that someone made up, or a word that we use to label something as false, then what is it? Myth comes from the Greek word mythos, which means word, or more significantly, story. That doesn't mean every myth, or even the most important ones, are Greek, but those will probably be the ones most familiar to our viewers in America and Europe, at least until the new Rick Riordan series gets going. So we're going to start by saying that a myth is a story, but it's a special kind of story that, for the purposes of this series, has 2 primary characteristics: significance and staying power. This means that the subject matter is about something important, something about how the world works, or how the world itself got going, how things came to be. And then there's staying power. These are stories that have survived centuries, sometimes millennia. And this is a testament to the deep meaning or functional importance of these stories to the people who hear and tell them.